So let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 4440981. You can also tweet at smooth981. And we're streaming live as well. So just search for us on YouTube and you can find the channel, subscribe, catch the live stream, and even post a comment. Good morning, Rotus.
Hey, good morning, Zibby. Good to be with you on they say today is the most productive day of the week, right? So something to that effect. I've never understood that, but yeah. Okay.
That's a nice orange shirt. Kind of reminds me of the Netherlands.
It's actually red. I think the camera is distorting the colors. Yeah, it's red. It's blood red.
Oh wow.
Indeed.
Does that look like red? Because I'm worried now. Is it my eyesight?
It's a blood red shirt.
Wow, that is interesting. Okay. All right. So inflation figures are in. Let's start off with this, Rotus. Can you just walk us through the latest inflation figures for June?
Yeah, these are some interesting numbers, though, Zibby. It's been the talk of the town in Nigeria since yesterday when the figures came out. Basically, it continues to climb. 22.79% is where we are year on year for June. So for all those listening, cost of living continues to climb. Although the argument most people have is that if a boiled egg cost 50 naira is now 100 naira, that's 100% increase. But then, food, we'll talk about the basket and where eggs go and all that other stuff. But 22.79% headline, food inflation climbing to 25%. It was 24 in May, that's year on year. Headline figure was 22.4 in May, year on year. Your core inflation that strips out, volatile food items, that was 20.27 in June. And then, of course, urban inflation, 24%, rural inflation, 21%. Then month on month, we saw a big jump. I think this is like a 6 or 7 year high. Headline inflation, 2.1% from 1.9. And then food inflation at 2.4. Interesting enough, core inflation month on month actually decelerated, I'm still baffled by that. It decelerated to 1.74% in June from 1.8. In May. And then, of course, rural and urban inflation also rising as well. So, the thing here is that, I was surprised because a while ago, when I said that it wasn't just me, it was a whole bunch of other folks that were surprised by these numbers. And the reason why is because the president's speech was on May 29th, right? If you remember the inauguration speech. And he said fuel subsidies are gone. There's no subsidy, right? Almost immediately. I mean, was it on the next day or late? Yeah, it was literally the next day. We got a new template from the NNPC. Prices were revised upwards almost immediately. And then you saw the ripple effect. And I remember at the time I said, hey, listen, don't look at the inflation numbers in June because the inflation numbers in June will reflect May. So nobody should expect any changes until we get to July when we are now looking at inflation numbers in June, because it was almost immediate that we saw these numbers. So yesterday we had Patrick Otoya from Money Central. Patrick said 30%. That's what he was expecting. We had folks that were expecting much higher numbers for the month of June. So yeah, pretty surprising. We expected it to be higher.
So why are people surprised though by these figures?
Yeah, so because the thing is, it's not reflective. There are even people who don't believe that 22% inflation. We'll get to the inflation basket in a moment, but you have people who are just don't believe that the numbers are accurately reflecting reality. And then you've got more folks, that's another debate. And then you've got folks who just said, no, this doesn't make sense. And it was to the point where the Bureau had to even respond, so that's where we are.
Yeah. So what exactly did they say, the NBS?
So the NBS came out and essentially, in fact, I should read the tweets word for word because, and I suggest everybody follow the Bureau of Statistics. Is it MBS_Nigeria? I think that's their Twitter handle, MBS_Nigeria. So they said this in a series of tweets they put out yesterday. They said the June consumer price index numbers may not fully capture the impact of the fuel subsidy removal and the unification of the exchange rate. I didn't even mention unification of the exchange rate because, technically most people have been accessing FX from the parallel market anyway. Not that many people had access to the official rates, but we did see, I think it was customs saying that they are repricing upwards the cost of bringing in goods and all that other stuff. But anyway, I didn't even mention exchange rate, but they mentioned it. So once again, the June consumer price index numbers may not fully capture the impact of the fuel subsidy removal and the unification of the exchange rate. Well, why? Okay. They said this is because the data collection for computing the rates for the reference month typically stops around the middle of the month, meaning that the June numbers only reflects approximately 2 weeks of the policy impact on consumer prices. The full effect of the policy as relates to prices can therefore not be reflected in June only, but also in subsequent months based on actual prices collected in market outlets across the country. So basically what they're saying in plain English is that we only collected enough data for half the month. So basically 2 weeks into what the numbers we are looking at now are basically for the last 2 months, the last 2 weeks in May and the first 2 weeks in June. That's how I'm interpreting it, which frankly is just no, man, no. No, so no, that's their response. And
okay, so you said no. Okay.
Yeah, so you can't look. The NBS, they need to just start. They need to start a lot of things all over again. If you're going to collect data for the month of June, then collect data for the entire 4 weeks in June. Don't collect for just 2 weeks in that particular month, right? Because it throws things off. And the fact that you have to come out, so you're basically, are you now telling us that for the entire history of the Bureau of Statistics, since we've been collecting data now, every month, every reference month, that you claim is only 2 weeks. You can't do that. No, you got to start over. You have to start over if you are collecting. And by the way, Zibby, has anybody ever approached you from the NBS to ask you about cost of living?
No.
Right. I've never been approached. And please, if anybody's listening to this broadcast or anybody who is driving to work, if you know anyone or you yourself have been approached by a person from the Bureau of Statistics to ask you about cost of living, can you please send a message to the WhatsApp platform and let me know? Because, this is something that I've always wondered. I've never been approached. I don't know anyone who's ever been approached. I would love to go to a market where they go and ask people for these prices. I know they do this, but, I'm not saying
it should be spread across demographics, shouldn't it?
Thank you. Yes, the sample size needs to be increased. So there's a number of things that need to change here because this is a revelation from the Bureau that is not satisfactory. You gotta do it from, just capture it from the beginning of the month to the. I think it's because we all know when subsidies were removed. We're all very aware. We knew it was right at the end of May. So we knew that immediately June 1st started, fuel prices had gone up. So I think it's a lot more accurate to start from, then your survey should go from the beginning of the month to the end, collect your data, and then put it out there, So that's that about that.
Well, let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 981. What about the situation with the inflation basket, Rotus?
Yeah, so the inflation basket is another matter. It hasn't been updated since I think is it 2009, 2010 or so. So and then there's the weightings in the basket. So I think food and non-alcoholic beverages make up about 11%, 11.8 at the divisional level, make up about 11.8% of the basket. And then from then on, take a look at this basket here. Housing, water, electricity, that's 3.8%. Clothing and footwear, 1.7%. Transport, its contribution is 1.48%. And so if you think about the impact of fuel subsidies and how that feeds into, what is it now? How that feeds into transportation costs, then yes, that should tell you that, okay, this is an issue with respect to how it's captured. And frankly, its contribution to the basket. So I just think that, basically that basket probably needs to be rejigged. And there's also the matter of FX, foreign exchange. Well, the things that we buy, so clothing, footwear, all this other thing, and then fuel. So I think the food prices, yes, because each month after month, year after year, or whenever the reports come out, they always say this was driven by food. It was driven by food. It was driven by food. It was driven by food. Yeah, okay, we get that, but fuel definitely. Considering that the average Nigerian spends half of their income on food and almost the other half on transportation, that means that's almost a 50-40 of a 55-45 or a 50-40 basket for your average Nigerian. If you ask them how much of your money, what's your basket? So if I ask you, Zibby, what's your inflation basket? Your basket will be filled up with the things you spend the most money on. And for most of us, it's food and transportation. So I think fuel has to have a higher weighting on the basket, and they need to update a number of things, because the NBS is doing, they are going to redo how the labor market is measured and unemployment. So you might as well take some time and do the same thing with inflation.
All right, let's go on to WhatsApp. We have some messages coming through. Abdul Kadir says that Cheta and Tunji once joined the NBS survey years back. Okay.
Yeah, indeed, that's true. Yeah, Tunji Andrews, that's right. And Cheta, yep.
Okay. Ben says, I get calls at intervals of maybe 2 to 3 months for some years now from staff of NBS. Rotus, why are they not approaching us? What are we doing wrong?
Maybe they don't feel we're important. That's good. I'm glad to hear. Thank you for sending that message. So it's good to know there are people out there who are reached out to from the NBS. That's great.
Zicolo says the guys at NBS are playing with our minds. As far as I'm concerned, they do not collect any data. It appears they just sit and cook figures, which are often not realistic with its realities. They can definitely do better. Well, Ben and
I would just real quick, Joe, I won't, thanks for the message, but I wouldn't say they are cooking figures. I just, because the NBS, especially when it was run by Dr. Yemi Kale, who is now at KPMG as their chief economist and a partner. Yemi Kale was fantastic. He was very transparent with what was going on. He personally went on his Twitter handle and would tweet every single category and explain things thoroughly. He was open to questions. He made himself available to the media. I mean, as a statistician general, those are the bright spots of the bureau. So I think it's after him leaving, things don't, and unfortunately, the person who replaced him, he tragically passed away. So they now have to get another person in there. So things have been a little wobbly for the bureau since Yemi Kale left. But I won't say they're cooking figures. They just need to it's just the basket needs to be reconstituted and the sample size needs to be widened. That's all. But cost of living is the number one topic for Nigerians and how to get past it, considering fuel subsidy removal, which I supported, no problem. And then exchange rates, liberalization, and so much other things that are going on. Look at that, we're even out of time. There's so much to talk about.
We are. There's so much to talk about. We're out of time. But I want to read this question from Dele. He says, has Nigeria considered having a commodity price commission?
We have commodity exchanges that are in the works. And these commodity exchanges, they're going to add depth to our markets and allow people who buy and sell food to hedge. So yeah, that's probably a good idea, but we do need to allow time for the commodity exchanges to be fleshed out, and hopefully that'll help us, because look, if a food emergency has been declared by the president, right? So we really have to, things need to change, because we're a country that is blessed with food. We should not be going through what we're going through right now. So fingers crossed, there's a long way to go.
All right. Maybe we can continue this conversation at a later time, a different day. Yeah.
Probably.
Thanks for being on the show, Rotus. Much appreciated.
Thank you. See you guys tomorrow.
And thank you for listening. Do stay with us. There's a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.